The little things in life can make a big difference. It's why Mobility Works has been helping people connect with who and what matters most since 1997. Our clients have unique needs, so we treat each of them as individuals. First of all, we listen. Then, we work together to find the best solution. Last, we custom fit clients with precisely the right wheelchair accessible solution. Rest assured that our relationship doesn't end there. We stay connected so you remain completely satisfied. With locations across the country featuring the largest selection of accessible vehicles and adaptive solutions, including minivans and full-size vans, SUVs and trucks, wheelchair and scooter lifts, turning and transfer seats, hand controls, wheelchair securement, and docking systems. Call us today to learn more about our selection of accessible vehicles and adaptive solutions.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on our last day of the Assistive Technology Week. We are so excited about our lineup today. And first up, we have Kendra Sheard. Kendra has been an occupational therapist for 21 years and has spent the past 13 years of her career serving the ALS community. In addition to being the primary occupational therapist for the University of Virginia's Richard Dart ALS Clinic, she has spoken at both state and national occupational therapy conferences to educate other therapists on the care of ALS patients. She was co-author for a research study in occupational therapy intervention for persons with ALS that was published in the American Journal of Occupational Therapy. Based on that research, she also assisted the American Occupational Therapy Association in the development of evidence-based practice guidelines for occupational therapists treating persons with ALS. Of all the patients she has had the privilege of working with throughout her career, Kendra is most passionate about her work with persons with ALS and their families. When she is not at work, she enjoys gardening, jazz music, playing the piano, cooking, and spending time with her family. And I am going to hand it off to Kendra, but if you guys have any questions during her presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A feature on Zoom in the comment section on Facebook Live. All right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Let me see if I can. Okay, I think my screen should be being shared now, so you'll be able to see my presentation. I am really excited to be part of this first Assistive Technology Week. Like Reagan said, I've been working with ALS patients for 13 years now. And when I started in the ALS clinic at UVA, I honestly had almost no idea what ALS was, but the clinic needed an occupational therapist. And I was asked if I was interested, and I said yes. I saw it as a learning opportunity, and I was really blessed to have great mentors and colleagues who helped me learn so much and grow so much. And as Reagan said, truly, this is my favorite patient population to work with. My topic for today is adaptive equipment and home modifications. And each of these subjects are really broad subjects. We could actually talk about these for hours. But when I thought about what to present today, I tried to think about what are the most common challenges that my clinic patients face. What are the questions I'm most often answering in clinic and the solutions that I'm most often suggesting? And honestly, during the past 13 years, I have learned much from my ALS patients as well. So it is true that necessity is the mother of invention. And while my patients will sometimes come to clinic with questions for me, sometimes my patients come to clinic and share the solutions that they found, and then I can share those solutions with other patients. So it really is a two-way street. So the things that I'm presenting to you today are by no means an all-inclusive list of all of the adaptive equipment or home modifications that we could talk about, but they are the most commonly made recommendations that I make in clinic. So let's talk about eating first. So when folks experience hand and arm weakness, one of the things that is affected is the ability to eat. And over the years, I have found that often the most inexpensive and simple solutions work the best. And so when I approach solving problems with my patients, that is the approach that I take. And so, for example, with eating, so if we're talking about shoulder weakness or weakness more in the arm, not thinking so much about the hand quite yet, but thinking just about shoulder or arm, it can make it really challenging to bring the food from your plate to your mouth. And what has worked really well for my patients many times is to have something like a breakfast in bed tray uh, that they can set on top of the table, and it raises the plate and the cup more to their level. And what's great about raising the plate and cup in this way is that it also provides a surface for them to rest their elbow on. And so basically they can just keep their arm up there on that tray, and they don't have to worry so much about how much effort it's going to take to bring the fork or spoon or cup to their mouth. Those things are already pretty level with their mouth. And so that is, you don't have to use a breakfast in bed tray. You could use other items to raise the plate. But like I said, the advantage with this is that it allows you to keep your elbow rested up there. And so you're not constantly having to find a way to bring your elbow up. And when you do have arm weakness, it is really important, just for saving your energy, that anything you're doing with your arm, that you're keeping that elbow supported to make things easier. Moving beyond the idea of just arm weakness in general, let's think about if you're experiencing hand weakness, where it's really difficult to hold utensils. So there are a lot of different options out there. I have pictured here several different colors of foam, and this foam can be purchased through medical supply companies. The idea behind the foam is that the larger a handle to hold is to hold on to, the easier it is to hold. And so you can put this foam on the end of a fork or spoon, and it makes it easier to hold because it requires less grip. Throughout the presentation today, I'm going to mention to you the cheapest solutions for all of these things. If you were to actually go to a medical supply company's website and look at this purchasing foam, you would find that it is, quite frankly, outrageously expensive. And so what I often recommend for folks is that you just go to Lowe's or Home Depot and look for pipe insulation, and you can purchase that for super cheap. It comes in all different diameters. So you just kind of need to know about the diameter that you would need for a fork or spoon. And so much more inexpensive and does the same job. So it's not necessary to purchase these more medical supplies. Below the foam is a strap. It's called a universal cuff. The reason it's called a universal cuff is because it can help with way more than just eating. Basically, the universal cuff on the underside has a pocket, and that's what the spoon is in. And that pocket can hold a spoon or fork. It can also hold a toothbrush or a pen or any number of items that would fit inside that pocket. What a universal cuff does is it takes away having to have any grip at all. And so that just fits, basically, it slides over the palm of your hand. Once you start having hand weakness, you often also have wrist weakness. And so I've also put a picture here of some angled utensils. And angled utensils can be particularly helpful when you start using things like a universal cuff, uh, or even the foam buildups, the foam handles. But the advantage of the angled utensils is when we eat, we not only bend our arm to bring the fork or spoon to our mouth, we also have to bend and rotate our wrist to get the fork or spoon pointed towards our mouth. As you start having arm weakness, that can become more challenging. So with the angled utensils, you don't actually have to bend or rotate that wrist. And they make them for right and left-handers. So the utensil is already angled for you. All you have to do is scoop and get it to your mouth. Again, I often tell my patients not to spend the money necessarily on purchasing angled utensils. You can certainly do that if you choose to. Sometimes even stores like Walmart, if you go online, will sell things like angled utensils. But honestly, you can go and purchase cheaper utensils and angle them yourself, and it works just as well. On the left here, I have a picture of a dorsal wrist support. This is, again, really great if you have wrist weakness. The dorsal wrist support, just like the universal cuff, has a pocket for a fork or spoon to fit inside of. Again, it can also work to hold a toothbrush and other things, but for purposes of eating, it can hold a fork or spoon in that pocket. The thing with the dorsal wrist support is that if your wrist muscles are weak and your wrist has a tendency to drop, that wrist support will keep that from happening. Again, angled utensils work best with something like the dorsal wrist support. Cups. So when you have hand weakness, it can be really hard to hold cups. And so you can, again, you can purchase adaptations that, like the one pictured in the center there, that would slide over your cup and gives you a little bit of a handle to slide your hand through. But honestly, most of my patients would just, again, purchase a travel mug, a travel coffee mug. What I like about the travel coffee mugs is you can get them where they're really lightweight. So not only do you have a handle to slip your hand through so that, again, you don't have to grip the cup, you can purchase them in a way where they're really lightweight. The mobile arm support. So I don't have a lot of patients who choose to use a mobile arm support. I've had a couple of folks who have been interested in this. Basically, the idea behind a mobile arm support, if you look at this mobile arm support here, on the side, you'll see a blue rubber band. And basically, the idea behind a mobile arm support is that it allows you to use the movements, the muscles that you have available, and then it compensates for the weakness. And usually we'll have different strength rubber bands, and they can be attached in certain ways. Usually you need to work with a therapist for this. The way that they're attached and the strength of the rubber bands changes the amount of assistance that the mobile arm support provides. This mobile arm support is clamped to the table. It can also clamp to a wheelchair as well. Again, this is something that I have never seen covered by insurance and can be a bit pricey. And one thing that I found for sure with all of my patients, but definitely in the ALS population, is that there is just no one size fits all answer for anything. And so the mobile arm support may work for some people, but I would say the majority of my patients, it's just not something that is feasible or convenient, but it is certainly available. I am not going to steal the thunder for the next presenter, but there is now available a dining robot. This particular one is the OB, and you will hear about that in the next presentation. The benefit of something like a dining robot is that it eliminates all but very small movements on the part of the user to operate. And so this is something that can increase your independence with eating if you choose to use that. Again, this is a device that I am just starting to see the company start working with insurances to try to help make it more affordable for patients. So some of my clinic patients have been able to explore that a little bit and getting insurance coverage for that, because as you might imagine, with any piece of electronic equipment, it is very expensive. Writing. So what happens when writing becomes difficult? Up in the left-hand corner, I've just pictured a super fat pen, and that is honestly the best place to start. So again, thinking about the idea of the bigger the handle to hold on to, the easier it is because it doesn't require as much grip. There's a lot of equipment that is available through places like Walmart, Target, those type of stores, just because we have more people who are living with arthritis. And so when you have arthritis, you need things that require less grip. So there's a lot of stuff that just can be purchased pretty easily that helps to compensate for hand weakness. But when it comes to writing, when my patients ask me about writing, I often recommend just starting out with purchasing the fattest pen that you possibly can. And you can really go, like I said, to any of the box stores and find pretty fat pens. That's not something that needs to be purchased specially. Again, as I mentioned before, you can also use foam tubing to build up the handle of a regular pen and to make that fatter and easier to use. I've had some patients that like this pen here in the middle. It's called an ErgoSoft pen. And you can see there's a bit of an indentation along the barrel of the pen. And basically what that allows you to do is rest one finger in that indentation. And then you have like these prongs coming up on either side, and they'll come up more around your knuckle. And so you don't really have to grip the pen. Your fingers just kind of resting on it, and then you can write that way. I think for the most part, most of us don't do a ton of writing. And so this is usually something that folks will make some minor adaptations, but when it gets too challenging, most people aren't super worried because we just don't do a lot of writing by hand anymore. So thinking about home modifications, again, the most expensive things are not always necessary. And so it can be easy to think that I need to have a contractor come in and redo all of this stuff in my home. And that's not always necessary. Sometimes it is, but it's not always. And again, I just think that it's important to try to think of simplest solution first. So I have pictured here a couple of examples of offset hinges, offset door hinges. So when you start looking at especially wheelchairs, sometimes walkers, depending on the home, but especially wheelchairs and getting them through doorways, it can be tempting to think that you need to have someone come in and widen your doorways. But going to a Lowe's or Home Depot and purchasing an offset hinge can actually give you up to 2 inches of additional doorway clearance. So I think that's always an important option to explore before doing major home renovations. Again, a lot of this is dependent on the way your door is opening into the room and what might be behind the door. So there are a lot of things, a lot of individual variations, and reasons that this might not work for everyone. But definitely offset hinges can be one way of giving you an extra, like I said, up to 2 inches of clearance for getting into a doorway. The bathroom. So the bathroom is super important when it comes to thinking about home modifications and what do I need to do. I am very passionate about making sure that my patients' bathrooms are safe. And the reason for that is that most falls that occur in the home actually occur in the bathroom. So if you think about it, you have wet surfaces that get slippery when you have soap and shampoos and other things. And so having your bathroom both accessible as well as safe is super important. Oftentimes when I start talking to patients about grab bars, they see the value of grab bars but are a little hesitant. And I think most of us think, when we think about grab bars, we're thinking the institutional looking grab bars that we see in uh, nursing facilities or hospitals, or maybe even in public restrooms. But again, because of the baby boomers who are really focused on aging in place, companies have responded by providing much more attractive options for grab bars. So when you start thinking about grab bars, your bathroom at home doesn't have to start looking like a hospital room at all. And you can get them actually in very attractive finishes. So, the chrome, brushed bronze, any type of finish that matches the other finishes or decor within your home. So I think that's really nice. It can sometimes make people feel a bit better about putting up grab bars in their bathroom. You can also get them in really bright colors. If you like colors, you can get them in a wide range of colors as well. So I think that it's nice that folks now have that option. As you can see, this one grab bar also doubles as a soap dish. So there are so many options now for grab bars that are different even when I started working with ALS patients 13 years ago. Again, this is just thanks to baby boomers wanting to age in place and wanting their bathrooms to be accessible without looking institutional. The shower or bathtub. This is often a huge challenge for my clinic patients. So let's just start with what is the most accessible type of shower. And the most accessible type of shower is what we call a zero threshold or roll-in shower. And it's pictured right here. So with the roll-in shower, The floor is graded so that it slopes downward towards the center of the shower where the drain is to try to keep water from going all over the bathroom. But there is no threshold per se. I have had some patients who have had roll-in showers put in, lovely work. But again, it's a pricey solution to the problem. So sometimes you can look at options such as the Tub Buddy, and that's pictured on the right side of this slide here. So the Tub Buddy eliminates the need to actually rip out a bathtub. And what it has, as you can see from the bottom picture here, is it has a frame that starts on the outside of the tub and then goes all the way to the inside of the tub. And basically the seat portion itself slides across that frame. So it eliminates the need to worry about the barrier of the edge of the tub. As you can see, this Tub Buddy, which is the brand that my patients most often choose when they choose this, has footrests, it has armrests, it has a head support. So lots of things to support weak body parts and limbs. Also, you'll notice that it is cut out, the seat is cut out in the center. And you can actually see here, you can see the bucket, and that's because it also doubles the function as a commode. In the top picture here, the chair has simply been rolled over the top of the commode because it can come on and off of that frame that goes over into the tub. So that gives you a couple of different options in terms of toileting. You could either use the bedside commode function of the Tub Buddy itself or roll it over top of the toilet. Again, this is an item that my patients don't always get insurance coverage for. It can vary very much on your specific insurance. The rolling shower chair over here is what you would use with a roll-in shower. Again, you can see it has all the features similar to the Tub Buddy of headrest, armrests, footrests, a bucket underneath the seat for toileting, or again, it can be rolled over top of your existing toilet. These are just a couple of different options. Again, I'll be honest that these can be pricey options. Sometimes the rolling shower chairs themselves may be available through like the ALS Association loan closet, as people might want to donate those items. But again, insurance coverage can be a little spotty for covering these items, but they're definitely out there and available. My favorite recommendation over the past couple of years has been that of the bidet. And one of the things that I have really noticed over time, or become very aware of over time working with the ALS population, is with each ability lost, the ability to do something to care for yourself, it robs the individual of just a little bit more dignity. And it's been a really hard thing for me to see sometimes when my patients lose the ability to do something and we've made modifications, and then we reach this point where there's just no more modifications and they become dependent on someone else, whether that's for eating or for bathing or for dressing, whatever it is. And I have had so many patients literally tell me that they find having a bidet to be life-changing. And that might sound dramatic, but for a disease that sometimes can just make you feel like you're being robbed of your dignity just a little bit at a time, to have one thing, something pretty intimate like toilet hygiene that you don't have to ask someone else to do for you, can be huge. It was really funny. One day I had a patient, he got a bidet, he loved his bidet, and he came to clinic one day and I was like, "Oh, hi, it's so good to see you. How are you doing?" And he was like, "Well, I would be a lot better if my bidet had not broken last night." And we laughed about it and it was a light moment, but it just really showed how significant that was to his dignity. And I think that that really helped cement in my mind how important of a recommendation I feel like this is for my clinic patients. So buying a bidet is a little like buying a car. You can buy everything from the economy model to the BMW. And so some of those things obviously are going to be personal preference. You can get bidets that do not heat the water. I personally would not want to be squirted with cold water, but you can get the really economy model that is just a basic um, cleaning function. You can then go as high as having a bidet that where the seat of your toilet is heated as well as the water. And then you have those models in between. Basically, I think what I've found is that most of my patients prefer to have at least heated water and drying functions. Although I do have one patient who absolutely loves her heated seat. But most of my patients will opt for models that at least provide heated water and drying functions. I encourage people, when you're looking to purchase a bidet, to look at the controls on the bidet and how easy or difficult they may be to use with limited hand function. And different bidets will have different types of hand controls. So I definitely encourage folks to look at that. Again, the bidet, depending upon how your bathroom is set up, you can purchase the bidet with controls on either the left-hand side or the right-hand side. And you can go online and get a bidet from Amazon. I've had patients have great success with that. I've also had people who definitely want very high-end bidets and they go to the local Moen store or whatever bathroom equipment company you prefer. But again, regardless of the level of complexity of the bidet that you purchase, it can be a really great alternative to losing your dignity when it comes to the bathroom. One thing to keep in mind with the bidet is that you will need an outlet near the toilet or a safe way to run an extension cord from the toilet to another outlet. So that's just something to keep in mind. So just some general recommendations that don't necessarily fall into one huge category. When it comes to personal care, I recommend electric toothbrushes all the time. Again, it helps to substitute for hand and arm weakness. The electric toothbrush does not require you to actually do a lot of scrubbing with the toothbrush. Electric toothbrushes have larger handles on them. And I often tell people that if you're concerned about the electric toothbrush being heavy, you can purchase a electric toothbrush that's made for children because those are much more lightweight. But that can definitely take some of the work out of oral care when you have hand and arm weakness. And so I'm with my patients, I'm very much about the easiest way to do everything, because what you have to remember is this is true for all of us. Every day when we get up, we have a certain amount of energy. And we don't make energy throughout the course of the day. Whatever energy we have, that's what we have. And so when day-to-day tasks are more challenging, it is super important to really think about, how do I make every single thing I do easier so that I spread my energy out better throughout the day, and I don't do a few things and am then left feeling exhausted. So I recommend using an electric toothbrush for all of my patients. Just for home safety in general, for example, in the event of a fall, I always recommend for my patients to have their cell phone on a lanyard so that it is around your neck, so that if you do have a fall, you have a way to call for help rather than finding yourself laying on the floor until someone comes home and is able to find you. Also, as your if your fingers are weaker, having your phone settings so that it is voice activated. I've definitely helped patients with this in clinic where they'll tell me, their fingers are getting really weak and it's harder to use their cell phone, and they're concerned about being able to call for help in the event of a fall. And you can always get into the settings for your cell phone and make it voice activated. There are accessibility settings on your phone to make it voice activated. And so for my patients, maybe for whom I haven't done this in clinic, usually they have some pretty tech savvy person in their family who can help them get into those settings and figure out how to make that voice activated. The other thing I get asked about a lot is moving around in bed, getting positioned in bed. And especially as someone is significantly weak and they need help from family members, what's the easiest way to move around in bed? So I highly recommend satin sheets. And even if you're not using like a bottom sheet that is a satin sheet, even using a satin sheet to make more of a draw sheet out of, like you would find in the hospital where someone can use that satin sheet to pull you up in bed. And the reason that I recommend this is satin is much easier to move against than is cotton. So you don't have that friction and resistance, and it makes moving yourself much easier. Or if a family member has to help you and they have that satin sheet across the bed as a draw sheet that they can just kind of pull you up with, it's much easier on them as well. The other thing that I recommend a lot in terms of moving about easier in bed is a bed rail similar to the one that's pictured here. You can obviously get bed rails in all different styles and whatever, but this would be a great example of a standard bed rail that I see working for most people. And it allows you, even if you don't have great hand strength, if you can hook your arm inside the bed rail and use your arm to help pull yourself over or to roll over, that can be very helpful as well. So that is all I have for sharing today. Again, these are just highlights of things that are most frequently recommended in my clinical practice, but I am open for questions right now if you have any.
All right, thank you so much, Kendra, for that great presentation. So again, if anybody has any questions for Kendra, please use the comment section on Facebook Live or the Q&A section on Zoom. And while we wait to see if there are any questions, I do have one quick question for you. When you are going over bidets, have you ever come across any switch adapted bidets, or what would you recommend for someone if they're having trouble using the remote?
I have not come across switch adapted bidets. That would be fabulous if someone would do that. Again, my patients just find the easiest types of remotes to use possible. The other thing that I have found is that for people who have hand weakness, but not as much leg weakness, you can put the remote on the floor for operating with your foot as well. So, and then maybe someone can work on doing switch adapted bidets.
Yeah. All right. And I don't see any comments just yet.
Okay.
Someone did say, wow, great ideas. Thank you on Facebook.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I do have someone on Zoom. They said, where can I find this on Facebook? So I will reach out to him. You can go to our ALS Association page, DC, Maryland, Virginia chapter on Facebook to find this video. And if any other questions come in, Kendra, would it be okay if we direct them to you?
Certainly.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much for presenting today on adaptive equipment and home modifications. It was a great presentation. And then everyone on Facebook Live or Zoom, we will be back at 1 p.m. And we have Heather from the feeding robot Obi to present and demo the Obi. So, all right. I think that ends our presentation for the day. Thank you so much, Kendra.
Thank you.